start getting started. I shall call this meeting to order. First of all, this is my first time presiding, so like, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to call this meeting to order. It is 7:04. Welcome to the Human Rights Commission meeting. I just want to do a little housekeeping. One is the closed captions are on. So if more than one person is talking at a time, anyone who relies on the closed caption is gonna just not, it's gonna be like this weird garbled like sentences that make no sense. So try your best to not speak over people. This meeting is being recorded, as I'm sure you all were told when you joined. What else? I think that's about it. So first we can do public participation. Any members of the public are invited to take 3 minutes if you would like to participate. Daniel Lieber, I see that you have your hand up, and then why don't you take it away? Go ahead.
So thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Just have a two quick things. One to thank the Human Rights Commission for the work that's being done, because it is very important work. We've certainly seen the need for it and much appreciated. Everything from the events with the pride flag to other things that are going on. The question I had actually is going to be relative to one of the items I happened to catch on the agenda, and it's for Mr. Mullen regarding the open meeting law. This meeting does not appear to have an in-person component, and the extensions to the open meeting law permitting it to be done in a solely remote manner for the public has not yet been signed into law. I know that it's being negotiated and finalized, but I've not heard that has actually been, that extension has passed and been signed in. So it's a matter of how should this be handled. There are other meetings that are pending as well.
Sure. Well, Dan, good to hear from you again. When this meeting was scheduled, everybody assumed that the long pending legislation that would extend the right to have these remote meetings would by now have become law. That's why it's posted the way it is. And then today, I read a part of the pending legislation, which I understand has been agreed to by House and Senate and is likely to be signed by the governor very shortly, which provides that any meetings, it extends the opportunity for remote meetings into next year. And it provides that if any meetings occur after the expiration of the governor's emergency order, but before that legislation becomes effective, then they are validated retroactively. I think it's a safe bet that that's going to be what happens. And in the worst case scenario, and it doesn't happen, then I think if there's a complaint to the Attorney General, there would simply be a request that we not do this again. And at worst, a request that we redo in open session anything that is done tonight. Since I know from my own part, all I'm going to be doing is going through my little open meeting law spiel, which doesn't require any action on the part of your committee. I'm not worried about that part. If you have on your agenda, which I have not checked, any weighty votes you were planning on taking, I'd hold off on those until a future meeting.
Does something like approving the minutes count as a weighty vote?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. That's very, very helpful, because I know there are other committees that are also impacted, and I would have expected this to have been passed and signed into law. It's just a unfortunate situation. The pace of law is not always as fast as we want it to be, but the transparency is important.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us, Tom. And thanks for asking the question, Danielle. I had the same question when we began the meeting. I was like, do we have to cancel this meeting? Like, what are we supposed to do right now? So good to know. Let's see. So why don't we go on to, as Tom was just mentioning, his presentation about open meeting law.
Yeah, and I should say, worst case scenario, I hope you'll visit me in jail. So the big picture about the open meeting law is very quickly and easily stated. And that is, you have to post notice of your meetings. You have to allow the public to attend, except in executive session, and you have to keep minutes. But there's a lot of complexity within all of this. First question is, who does it apply to, this open meeting law? Well, it applies to any public body, which is a multi-member board, commission, committee, or subcommittee, no matter how created. So your group, Human Rights Commission, is definitely subject to the open meeting law. It's a public body created by the town of Wakefield, and it works on public matters. If, however, you were to, let's say, assign some kind of responsibility to 2 or 3 of your members and have them go off and be a subcommittee, that subcommittee itself is a public body. And anytime its members meet, they have to post notice and keep minutes. Sometimes, and this doesn't happen, fortunately, so much anymore, but the school committee had a habit years ago of creating a working group and treating that group as if it could go off and do whatever it wanted without posting notice. And the Attorney General looks askance at that. You don't avoid your public body status just by calling yourself something other than a committee or a subcommittee. Interestingly, the open meeting law does not apply to town meetings. That's why at town meeting you can, and we sometimes do, have a secret ballot, something you can never do in an open meeting. Another question is, what is a meeting? Well, the law defines it as a deliberation by a public body with respect to any matter within the body's jurisdiction. So that kind of begs the question, what is deliberation? And it is an oral or written communication through any medium, including electronic mail, between or among a quorum of a public body on any public business within its jurisdiction. Now, a quorum, you might not be familiar with that term. It's the number of members you need in order to hold a meeting. And for all of our boards and committees in Wakefield, that means a simple majority. So how many members do you have? I don't know.
So this is actually a question I have. So there's 11 voting seats. Right now, 10 of them are occupied. So when calculating the quorum, would that make it 5 or 6?
When you say occupied, what do you mean?
Like we have a student appointment that's a high schooler that's appointed who hasn't been appointed yet and hasn't been sworn in. And so that seat is vacant right now.
Yeah. So I think you would count the total of 11. And so a quorum would be 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So if a majority of your group were to get together in person or on the phone or by email or by Zoom and start talking about something within your jurisdiction, that's a meeting. And the Attorney General construes deliberation to include the mere expression of an opinion on a matter within your public body's jurisdiction by one member to enough other members to form a quorum. So let's say we have a town council in Wakefield, as we do, of 7 members. One member of the town council emails 3 others saying, I think we need a big new sewer project. Even if the other 3 don't respond, that's deliberation. That's a violation of the open meeting law because he's expressing an opinion about a matter within the town council's purview to enough other members to form a quorum. And serial communication is just as bad. So if one town councilor expresses an opinion like that to another, who passes it on to another, who passes it on to another, there you have serial deliberation by a quorum. The only exception here is scheduling. You are allowed to discuss scheduling of meetings, and I don't mean the substance of the meeting. I mean things like when, where, what day, what time, and where are we going to meet. You are entitled to do that anytime, by any means. And any public body may receive a packet or email with material for an upcoming meeting, provided that there's no expression of opinions in it by one member to the rest of the members. It's also not a meeting of a quorum of a public body if they attend a public or private gathering, including a conference or training program or a media, social, or other event, so long as the members do not deliberate. So you can all go to a Bruce Springsteen concert together. Just don't talk about your human rights business. And a subset of this rule is that you can even attend a meeting of another public body, that is, assuming it's properly posted. You can attend and sit in the audience, provided that you don't deliberate and you just participate as audience members. Okay, so if you wanted to get up there and have your own table next to the table of, say, the school committee, and you can talk into the microphone just like the school committee members do. No, that's a joint meeting. And in that case, both boards would have to post. But if a quorum of you were content just to go to a school committee meeting, sit in the audience, listen, and speak up only when members of the audience are invited to speak up, that's okay. You don't have to post in that case. And on-site deliberations can also be done without posting and without keeping minutes, provided that there's no deliberation. This is unlikely to be something that comes up in your group, but it's a big deal for, say, the Conservation Commission. So they go and walk the property that they're going to be ruling on. If they want to talk about the pending notice of intent about that property, that's a different matter. Then they have to post notice and keep minutes. Okay, so what do you post? Well, you post a meeting notice, which includes an agenda. And that's a listing of topics that the chair reasonably anticipates will be discussed at the meeting. Since the posting is supposed to be done at least 48 hours before the meeting, it's basically a list of things that the chair expects will be discussed 2 days in advance. So if you posted, say, 4 days in advance, and 3 days out, the chair learns that somebody wants to talk about something that hadn't originally been posted, you have to renotice it. If, on the other hand, you post the notice 48 hours in advance and 24 hours out, you notice the chair thinks of something that she'd like to bring up, you have two choices. You should postpone consideration of that till the next meeting, and that's by far the better course. Or if it's really, really important that you deal with it immediately, update the posted notice, but be aware that you're likely to draw criticism for that. Because the better practice is always to move it on to the next agenda. Sometimes you see boards that post agendas that say new business. That's okay as a kind of, that's actually something you should probably avoid. What you want to say is you want to get very specific about each of the items that you're going to discuss. But then with respect to anything that the chair doesn't anticipate, you might put a catch-all: topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. Please don't ever use the term old business. If you've been discussing something in the past and you anticipate it's going to be brought up, again, get specific about it. So the chair controls the agenda, but note that that does not mean that the chair dictates what members want to talk about. So if you, as members, want to discuss X, you should talk to the chair in advance of the meeting, sufficiently in advance so that she can post notice 48 hours in advance, and she can put X on the agenda. Now, let's say you have an obstreperous chair. I'm not suggesting you do. And the obstreperous chair refuses to put X on the agenda. What happens? Well, you are a member of the public body, and the open meeting law doesn't deprive you of your rights as such. So once you get to the meeting, it's not on the agenda, but it's not your fault. The chair wouldn't put it on. And therefore, you can bring it up as a subject. Madam Chair, I move we discuss X. And then the committee can vote on whether X is properly to be discussed. So far, what we've talked about is what goes on in open session. We're in open session right now. Anybody who wants to can listen, can watch. But there's also something called executive session. And it's awfully unlikely, I think, that your group would get into executive session, and be grateful about that. You don't want to go there. But executive session means secret session. The major reasons, there's a long list of reasons why you're allowed to go into executive session. And if you don't fit within one of those categories, you may not go. But the major reasons are to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges against an individual. And if that happened, and again, I don't think you have employees, so you don't have to worry about this, you'd have to give the individual 48 hours written notice. You'd have to give him an opportunity to attend with an attorney. You'd have to let him separately record the executive session. And if he, for some reason, wanted to do this in open session, you'd have to let him. The school committee and the town council frequently have to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining. That too is allowed. Also litigation. And if you were making appointments, you could screen applicants, at least if you create a subcommittee to screen the applicants in executive session. So how do you go into executive session? Well, it's important to remember you always start in open session, as we did tonight. So you convene in open session, and then there's a motion made to go into executive session for one of these particular reasons, and it has to pass by a majority, by a roll call vote. And you're all accustomed to roll call votes now after a year of COVID. And the chair has to make certain statements for the record in open session. She must state the purpose as specifically as she can without giving away the whole reason for secrecy. So if it's litigation, I recommend you identify the case. If it's negotiations, identify the union. If it's to screen applicants, identify the position, but obviously don't name the individuals. The whole reason you're screening an executive session is to preserve their confidentiality. And you have to state whether open session will reconvene after you're done, because the public is entitled to know, is it worthwhile sticking around, or is the meeting over, as far as I'm concerned, for the rest of the night? And make sure that the minutes of your open session recite all of this that happened. Now, once you get into executive session, meaning the public has fled, or if you're doing it by Zoom, you've gone into another Zoom room that the public doesn't have access to, somebody has to keep minutes, as you keep minutes for your open sessions, but it's a separate set of minutes, and all votes are recorded by roll call. So let's talk about minutes for a minute. Minutes have to identify all the members who were present for your meeting, and you should state everybody who was absent. You record all votes, and if it's a roll call vote, you have to specify who voted which way. If it's not a roll call vote, it's okay to say the motion passed 7-2 or whatever. The minutes have to include a summary of the discussion on each subject. And that doesn't have to be, in fact, it cannot be a transcript, but it's got to be enough detail so that a reasonably bright person can read and generally understand what went on. There was one case that went to the Attorney General where a public body spent an hour and 25 minutes in an executive session on contract negotiations. And it was all summarized in 2 short sentences. And the AG said, no, this doesn't pass the smell test. Go back, do it over again. Now, you're supposed to create and approve minutes of all meetings, including executive sessions, in a timely manner. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means within the next 3 meetings or 30 days, whichever is later. And you can approve them any way your group chooses. So the easiest way is just everybody reads them and you do a vote every meeting to approve the minutes of the last meeting. But you can also delegate this responsibility to somebody. You can say to the poor minute taker, you do it, we trust you. Executive session minutes have to be reviewed by the full body periodically or by the chair or other designee at reasonable intervals, just to make sure that there's still a reason for non-disclosure. Because the idea is you don't want those executive session minutes to remain secret forever. When the need for secrecy passes, you're supposed to make them public. Sometimes the need for secrecy will go on forever. If you have me coming in to advise you about pending litigation, that's subject to the attorney-client privilege. I would say that should never be something that is released. If, on the other hand, you're talking about negotiations with a union, well, once you've struck the deal and signed the contract, there's no more need for secrecy. So those minutes should be made public. Certainly, if you go into executive session to talk about somebody's physical or mental health, you never release that.
Can I ask you a quick question? Mm-hmm. So some of the committees I see on Zoom, have everybody vote on meeting minutes and subcommittee meeting minutes, whether they were at that subcommittee or not? Whereas we, over the last year, only had people vote on the minutes that were at the subcommittee meetings. What is the correct way to do it?
So there are really 2 questions there, I think. One is, do you have to have been at the last meeting in order to vote now on the minutes of that meeting? And the answer is no, definitely not. You can vote on it if you are a member of the public body and it's minutes of the public body, whether you attended or not. I think the second question is, if the public body creates a subcommittee, and that subcommittee obviously has to create its own minutes, who votes to approve those minutes? Is it just the subcommittee members or is it the full public body? I believe it would be just the subcommittee members. Again, whether they attended the meeting or not, all the subcommittee members would be entitled to vote on the subcommittee minutes. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yeah, it's actually, that's the way we've been doing it. So you answered it and reinforced our decision earlier in the year. So that's
okay.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, nobody's going to jail so far. Great. If there's ever a request by somebody that you review and release your executive session minutes, then you have to review them by the next meeting or 30 days, whichever comes first. Um, And when you review executive session minutes, you have to think to yourself, okay, some of this may be necessary to preserve it. We may have to keep this secret indefinitely, but do we have to keep all of it secret? And frequently you end up redacting minutes. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but basically you black out the things that you believe you have to keep secret, and you have to release the rest. One thing that I think is very interesting is minutes always exist from the very moment the meeting ends. Okay, because somebody has been tasked with keeping the minutes, and that poor member who barely, has time to raise her head long enough to participate in the meeting, she's desperately hen scratching across her pad, and it's totally illegible. And even she is going to scratch her head the next day and try to figure out what she meant. If somebody right after the meeting asks for a copy of the minutes, that's what they're entitled to. That's a public record request, and they're always entitled to a copy of the open session minutes. And those minutes always exist in some form, either in hen scratch, penmanship, or later reduced to, fine sentences in typescript approved by the full committee. Now, bear in mind, if you do have a public records request, you have up to 10 days to respond to it. So as a practical matter, you don't necessarily have to surrender your, your notes with all the doodles in the margins. Now, in the conduct of the meeting, it's important to remember that anybody who wants to has the right to audio tape or videotape your meeting. If that happens, the chair should announce, as she did at the beginning of this meeting, that the meeting is being recorded. You never, ever take a secret ballot. Okay, the public is entitled to know how you vote. And now, one real hot topic in recent years, as you can imagine, has been email, social media, and texting. And people always ask, can members of a public body communicate with each other that way? Well, the first level, real simple answer is, of course, provided that it doesn't entail communication among a quorum. So in your group of 11, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 of you can get together and communicate all at once or serially. It's not such a great idea. I recommend that you withhold your thoughts until you get to a public meeting, but technically it's not a violation if you stay below the quorum level. And committee members do have the right to participate in online discussions such as Facebook and Twitter and web pages and listservs and the like. But the Attorney General says you may not use those means to engage in deliberation. Well, what does that mean? I mean, if a school committee member goes on Facebook to complain about a new school building project, it may be very likely that a quorum of the whole school committee is going to see her doing that and read it and understand her opinion. And isn't that deliberation? On the other hand, they are school committee members, they're public figures. They're entitled to take public positions on public issues, aren't they? They haven't given up their First Amendment rights. My advice is it's safest to avoid social media. For many people, that's not practical. But if one member of your public body uses a particular social medium, I recommend you avoid engaging with that person on that medium. Okay, just don't respond to them. And there's a question that often comes up that it just stuns me that it has to be asked. May committee members text to each other or to non-members during committee meetings? You'd think that it would be a question that should never come up because we are all too well-mannered, too well-bred to be such cretins. But the legal answer is that while the Attorney General recommends against using electronic communications with anybody during a meeting in order to avoid the appearance of a violation, it's not illegal unless you're exchanging views with a quorum of your public body. And we've all gotten used to remote participation. I'm happy to say that very recently, as we realize that we are going back into pre-COVID structure, the town council in Wakefield has voted to adopt remote participation as an option for all boards, all public bodies in Wakefield. And that means that if the chair determines that it would be unreasonably difficult for an absent member because of physical distance, disability, emergency, or whatever, then he may participate remotely by phone, by internet, by Zoom, so long as he can clearly hear and be heard. And if there is remote participation, once we go back to the regular regime, all votes would have to continue to be taken by roll call, as you do now. And significantly, a quorum would have to be physically present at the meeting place. So there's always, once we get past this COVID stuff, got to be a corporeal meeting place, a place where the quorum shows up. And the person who's chairing the meeting, not necessarily the official chair, but whoever happens to be chairing that meeting that night has to be at that corporeal meeting place. And finally, just bear in mind that while the Attorney General, which is the enforcing agency of the open meeting law, tries to be kind of indulgent because nobody wants to chase away, volunteers like you who give up their time for their town, it is possible for a public body to be fined up to $1,000 for a violation of the open meeting law. So I recommend that when in doubt, give me a call. It's free, and advice of counsel is a valid defense should there ever be a problem with an open meeting law violation. With that, I want to thank you for your service and invite you to ask any questions. I'll be happy to try to answer.
I bet we have lots of questions. I have lots of questions. Does anyone want to jump on?
I'll jump in. I have a couple questions. So in terms of, I understand in terms of scheduling that's okay. We host a lot of, or hopefully soon we will be hosting more in-person events, and we often are bringing in food and setting up tables. If we need to get in touch with someone to say, I'm bringing muffins from Honeydew, or I'm bringing silverware, I'm bringing cups, logistics like that, are those things that fall under the open meeting law?
The logistics are not within this exception, but I would say don't worry about that. Okay. Nobody appointed you to the Human Rights Commission so you could consider donuts. Okay. Right. Donuts are outside your jurisdiction. You may eat all you like, and you may discuss among yourselves your love of donuts, but you don't have to worry about the open meeting law then. Okay,
all right. And my second question is, if we're meeting with a private town group, for example, like the Social Action Committee of the UU Church, and there are, let's say there are 3 or 4 of us meeting with them. That's where I'm a little uncertain. If we haven't designated ourselves a subcommittee at that point, is that something that we still need to post notification of if we're not the host of the meeting, if we're going as invited by right, if the UU was inviting us to attend the meeting? How would that work?
So if fewer than a quorum show up at anything, any kind of meeting, any kind of gathering, you don't have to worry about the open meeting law. If a quorum or more of you want to attend the same gathering, then you do have a potential problem. If you show up and don't deliberate, if you participate just as members of the audience, then you're okay. What is troubling, though, would be if you were, a quorum of you were to show up at, say, the Unitarian Universalist Church and start talking about, even one of you talking about matters within your jurisdiction, which, you know, likely would come up because of your shared interest with that group. In that case, you know, the safe thing to do, post it, have somebody keep minutes. The minutes would probably be all of half a page. And nobody could criticize you for violating the open meeting law.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I want to piggyback on that one, because one thing we've done in the past is what's the word? You know, like co-host an event with the UU Church.
Mhm.
So, you know, a couple members of their social action committee get together with a couple members of our committee. We plan an event. How would that be considered? I feel like part of what Maria was asking is, should that be considered a subcommittee kind of gathering? And then it would be a quorum if like 3 members of the HRC have volunteered to be a part of this planning group.
Mhm. Well, if a subcommittee would be a group that is a part of your public body. So you've got 11 members. If you designate, say, 3 members to go do something, whatever you call them, that's a subcommittee. So if there's a formal designation, hey, you guys are now responsible for widgets, then that's the widget subcommittee in the eyes of the law, and they have to post notice anytime they meet, and they have to keep minutes. The fact that they may be joined by other people outside their group to assist is really irrelevant. Those people don't add to the group. There's another possibility here, which is your public body could create a separate public body. You might say, hey, we're going to create this separate committee to run a particular event. And that committee is going to consist of 3 members of our public body and the following people from the Unitarian Universalist Church. Now that's a public body in and of itself, not formally a subcommittee of yours because it's not wholly a part of you, but it is a body that was created by a town group, by you. It has definite members and it has a public purpose. So I would say in that case, those members are all members of the public body, the 3 of you plus the UU designees, and they should be posting notice and taking minutes with respect to their meetings. You can see I'm a lot of fun at a party.
Are there other questions that people have that are coming up?
Actually, this is a concern rather than a question. We obviously cannot be very fleet. We can't. Is there such a thing as emergency session that doesn't require this notification for 48 hours? When something really immediate needs to be.
Yeah, you can have an emergency meeting, but it's got to be a real emergency. The only one that I've ever participated in, I think, had to do with a blizzard moving in, and the then Board of Selectmen in Wakefield had to cancel or postpone an election scheduled for the next day. It's got to be something like that, something where the emergency nature is pretty much life and death, and it's not something that you could have planned for.
Yeah, Elizabeth, go ahead.
So I've been listening to the UU Church being used as examples for all of these cross meetings. So I have a very specific question because I play two roles there. So I'm the minister at that church, and I'm also the clergy rep here. So anytime that there is a cooperative event, then I need to be thinking about this dual role, right? I need to be cautious about my HRC role and not only think about myself in my ministerial role. Is that correct?
Well, that really gets to an issue that's beyond the open meeting law. That has to do with conflict of interest. Okay.
Sure.
And that's an interesting and big subject of its own. But briefly, you are all municipal employees. I know you don't get paid, so you've got the best of all possible worlds. You've got all the responsibility, and you don't get any compensation for it. But you are, within the meaning of the state ethics law, municipal employees. And there are rules that govern municipal employees, basically that say that you cannot participate in a particular matter where some organization that you are a director of or a leader in has a financial interest. Now, I doubt that the UU Church has a financial interest in anything that your public body here is going to be involved in.
We're not really making money off of anything.
Yeah, I don't think so, no.
No, I think I was more specifically though asking about the open meeting laws. That if we've got 3 folks from this committee meeting with my social action committee, do I need to be cautious about whether or not I am there adding to the HRC numbers?
No, I don't think so. Again, your committee members can meet with anybody they like. And no matter how many others there are, unless they've been designated as part of a new public body, and I assume that's not the case here, they don't count. For purposes of the open meeting law, all we are concerned about is how many members of your public body are there. And if it's a quorum, either of the public body as a whole, which would be 6, or of a subcommittee that's created, which, who knows how much that may be, then you have to post notice and you have to take minutes.
So if there was a group of HRC people who are planning an event with the UU Church, which I think could reasonably be considered a subcommittee because they're planning like one time we did an event about, what was the last one we did? It was about human trafficking. So this is like a human rights committee, a human rights commission topic that falls within our purview. We're planning an event. It seems like it's a subcommittee. There are also other members of the public who are a part of this planning group. Say there are 5 members of the HRC who are doing this planning work along with a couple members of the UU Church. And then Elizabeth comes along and wants to sit in on one of the meetings. It makes it a quorum, right? Even though she's there perhaps with her UU Church hat on, but she is a member of the HRC. So it would like tip that scale for the quorum.
Yes, that's right.
I will keep that in mind. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And Elizabeth, in everybody's case, if you feel that it would be a conflict of interest to engage in any particular discussion, you should be able to publicly recuse yourself. And there's no shame in that. If you feel like you are torn in 2 different directions and you're not able to make a completely objective determination.
Oh, sure. I mean, I have 0 concerns about that actually. But thank you, Sherry.
Actually, I was directing that at everybody, that you feel that you can recuse yourself if you feel there's any conflict.
If there is a situation where a subcommittee ends up having 6 members of the HRC on it, would that actually have to be posted as an HRC meeting and not a
Yeah,
subcommittee meeting? Yeah.
yeah, you can't have a quorum of the public body serve as a subcommittee. That it doesn't make sense. Because then every time they meet, it's the HRC itself.
And actually, we have that in our orientation, that no subcommittee can have more than 5 members of the HRC on the subcommittee. We do point that out.
And if no quorum is met, then what happens?
Ah, that's interesting. If you can't muster a quorum, the only thing the body can do is adjourn to a definite date, time, and place. Okay. This happens at a lot at town meetings. We're kind of spoiled in Wakefield because we don't have a quorum requirement for our town meetings, but most towns do. And it's a struggle to get the requisite number of people to show up for a lot of town meetings. And so when the town meeting is announced and the moderator's there and you've got everybody gathered and you realize you're short a certain number, the only thing that meeting can do legally is to vote to adjourn to a definite date, time, and place. As a practical matter, typically you wait for people to come and you call everybody you know and ask them, beg them to come down. I was at one town meeting in Princeton where that happened, and they called all the bars in town and nearby and asked for any Princeton resident who to cease lubricating himself and come participate in democracy.
It must have been lively.
It was.
I have a question about something that you said about engaging on Facebook. So one thing that I think is like important ethically for us to do is to respond to Facebook comments that are antithetical to our mission. But it sounds like maybe that's not a thing we are allowed to do.
Well, the concern that I'd have would be if you do that, are you actually deliberating among yourselves? Now, it's a stretch for anybody to claim that you're deliberating if, say, one member of the group goes on Facebook to rebut some offensive statement. But if you go up to 4 or 5, 6 members of your group doing so, then it starts to sound a lot more like deliberation. This is by far the mushiest area. It's sort of like in law school, we learn about antitrust cases where people who want to price fix engage in signaling with each other. So the CEO of one company will say to the Wall Street Journal, I think all prices ought to go up by 3% next year. And his real purpose is in signaling all of his rivals that he's going to go up 3% and he thinks it's okay for them to do the same. There's similar concern here is, are you signaling other members of your group when you express an opinion that's within the jurisdiction of your group in a public forum? And I think you just want to try to avoid the appearance of that kind of signaling because it so easily shades off into illegal deliberation.
So I don't think I understand the signaling analogy, but so say somebody says something offensive, like we post, a thing on our Facebook page, and then a member of the public makes an offensive comment, and then a member of the HRC responds to that comment with some kind of corrective messaging, like actually, we try to celebrate this and this and this and whatever, some, what, would that be considered deliberation?
Well, see, that example takes us kind of far afield. I think it's clearer when you deal with a public body that has more concrete issues before it, like a school committee or a town council deciding whether to support a bond issue and a 2.5 override. Okay, now there's a concrete public issue. And so if one member of the school committee were to communicate by email with a quorum of the school committee saying, I think that we should have a 2.5 override to support renovation of this, that, and another school, but not for something else, that's a pretty clear open meeting law violation. Now, if they were to say something like that at a public meeting, knowing that other school committee members would become aware of it, maybe hear it, is that so clear a violation? No, it's obviously a lot less clear, but you could see that it's a problem. And so the best advice, the most conservative advice I can offer public officials is that they should refrain from making a lot of public statements about matters within their jurisdiction until they get to a public meeting. Because once you're in a properly posted open session, you can say anything you want about the subject matter within your jurisdiction, and it's listed on the agenda, and nobody can criticize you for violating the open meeting law.
Do people have other questions?
Okay. Hey, well, thank you very much. It's been great. I really appreciate your efforts for the town and the fact that you want to educate yourself about this often very difficult subject. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It's always, I feel like I learn new things every time. It's helpful.
Okay.
So thanks for taking the time.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, bye, Tom. All right, next up on our agenda is approval of the minutes. So let's see, so we've got the full HRC minutes from our last meeting on May 18th. So do I have a motion? Or are there any changes that people need to make or want to make to those? Great. Now, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 18th?
So moved.
Second.
Cool. Okay, so now we have to do the roll call. I'm going to go in the order of people on my screen, which is Lindsay.
Here.
Sherry.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Maria.
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes.
And is it true, Amy? Are you no longer a voting member? Or are you voting?
I don't matter. I cannot vote.
You matter. You and Yana both matter.
Well, thank you.
Okay, and I also vote yes. So the meeting minutes for May 18th are approved. Next is Pride Subcommittee. Who is on the Pride Subcommittee?
I don't think we can vote on those minutes because that's myself, Daniela, and Eileen. And we only have 1/3 of us here.
Yeah, great point. So we can do those at the next meeting. I also have a question. So there were 2 Pride subcommittees. There was May 28th and June 8th or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, wait. So yeah, so we'd have to do both of those the next time.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's no communication subcommittee meetings that have happened. Is that right? Sherry, I think you told me that.
Correct, we haven't.
Okay, so there's no meetings from that and there's no minutes from that to approve.
Correct.
Great. So then on to subcommittee updates. Elizabeth, do you want to give us an update on what's been happening in the Pride subcommittee?
I do have an update. Eileen emailed it to me
Wonderful.
because she's very on top of things, which is why she is the subcommittee chair. Go, Eileen. Eileen shares that Daniela has been providing profiles, which have been posted regularly to Facebook, and Eileen says, thanks, Benny. And the library has provided us with a list of notable books for Pride Month. So Eileen, I missed the last subcommittee meeting, but Eileen said she's hoping we can share some this week and next week, and that she's going to be passing along some language for the Facebook posts. We had talked about a Wakefield Pride Day that appears in our minutes for the subcommittee, and it sounds like instead of doing that, there is a larger North Shore Pride planned for June 26th. So it appears that we are tagging onto that. We've got a poster to encourage people to share their pride, to hang signs in businesses and flags at homes, and to chalk up your sidewalk if you choose to on June 26th. So there's a really lovely flyer. I don't know if I don't know if that can be shared or not at this time. What do you think?
Do you mean
Like screen shared?
like technologically?
Well, I know how to do it. I'm wondering if it's allowed.
I think probably. I'm not sure though. Yeah, I think so, right? He just said, once we're in an open meeting that's been properly posted, you can share whatever opinions you have, be they verbal or visual.
Okay, so yeah, then here, let's see. Let me just close other windows and let me see if I can share that.
Benny would have to designate you a host first.
Yeah, it's disabled for me. Don't worry about it. I don't need to do it. It's a lovely poster that's got some details on it. And then still in the works is doing some book readings. I believe picture book readings. And there is a question from Eileen about that. Eileen asks, can we do them by Zoom to record them and then send them to you, Benny, for posting?
Yeah, you can. That's what we've done. It's like a helpful recording tool. One thing I will say is you do have to have permission from the publisher, which can be like time consuming. Some of them, a lot of them still are giving like blanket permissions.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, one thing to keep in mind.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I will keep that in mind for our next meeting and share that with the subcommittee the next time we all meet. And that's what I have for updates.
So exciting. So do you know, so what's the, for this North Shore Pride Day thing, are we planning to like participate in some way?
I have no idea what it is. The first I heard of it was reading that it is happening in the notes Eileen sent me. I'm guessing that it was discussed at the subcommittee meeting that I missed, unfortunately. So I'm not I'm not sure whether there is anything larger that we are participating in or whether we are just inserting some plans that we had already made into the same date so that we're like collectively around the North Shore doing things at the same time. That's my guess, but I don't know.
Sherry.
Yes. Is there a website that we could go to? Any place that we can go to find additional detail? I'm going to be away, but if any place we can go to find additional details about that event?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know the name of the organization that is planning it?
I don't know anything about it.
I wonder if I would be, if you found that out, would I be allowed to put that in the minutes as a footnote?
Probably.
Okay. So if you could find out from Eileen and just send an email to me like tomorrow, before I finalize the minutes, we can put it in as a footnote.
So I found some stuff about them. They do have a Facebook site. Sherry, if you want to look at that, it's just called North Shore Pride. If you're, are you on if you're on Facebook?
No,
They
not
have,
much.
They're just posting all the Manchester by the Sea was last Saturday, and then you know, just what did you say, Elizabeth, on Saturday the 26th?
Yeah, the 26th is the, I think the primary day. Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, I'll just look for it on Facebook and add it into the minutes. I'll try to provide the link.
There is a webpage that I just found, northshorepride.org.
Oh, okay.
But I would double check with Eileen the dates because it looks like the big picnic that's happening is on the 27th. So I would just double check with her.
Okay.
Which event she was referencing.
Okay, Elizabeth, can you just do that for me? Just find out from Eileen for me and then send me that information tomorrow. That would be very, very helpful.
I will do my best. I will say I am completely unavailable tomorrow because I am going to be in the ocean.
Oh, okay.
In the middle of it, literally.
Okay, then.
I can send her an email, but I probably won't hear back from her until I check my email on Thursday morning.
Well, then maybe I should walk around the block because her house is adjacent to mine on the next street. So yell over the fence, you know.
You may also be able to email her.
That's true. I'll try to get that information.
Yeah,
then.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm certainly more than happy to send an email tonight, but realistically, I'm getting on a boat with children in the morning and I won't.
Okay.
Okay.
I will send her an email tomorrow asking her for any information that we can include in the minutes regarding this event.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any other stuff about Pride that we should touch on?
I think that's everything. That's everything that she gave me.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for giving the report back. And okay, so there was no communication subcommittee meeting, but is there anything, Sherry, that you want to update us about for communications?
Very, very briefly, and I'm taking notes at the same time. I will, by the next meeting, provide everyone with the promotion resources list. And Maria, if you would please work with Jen Betcher between now and the next meeting so that we can post the history on the website, that would be wonderful. And I will see what I can do about creating a more visual timeline on my own, although we would like to have students help us with that. And in terms of communications also, the next of Yana's beautiful posters will be distributed just before July 4th to the businesses that have been displaying them in town, to the library, and to the town for exhibit in the kiosk. So you've seen the wonderful birthday cake, and there's a new one coming as of the beginning of July.
I actually have a question on that. So, eventually, I think we're doing it every like 3 or 4 months, right?
We do it every quarter, so it's every 3 months. I'm changing it.
Okay. Should I like create more until like I
Well-
graduate, or?
Well, I have enough to the end of the year, and then we have to
Okay.
decide if we're going to continue this messaging campaign.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so before you start creating even more artwork,
Yeah.
I think they're wonderful. I think this body needs to determine if we should continue that campaign.
Yeah.
And perhaps give you suggestions for messages, so you don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself.
That would be great. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, excellent. Let's see. So on to anti-racism updates. Okay. Youth Council, Yana, you had mentioned to me that, do you have any updates from the Youth Council?
Yeah, our last meeting was pretty brief because of the Warrior Pride Night, so there wasn't many members. So we just had liaison updates, but we did talk about how we're working on getting new members by the end of June. And then I know a couple of you guys will ask me if we're going to continue this through the summer, like have meetings, and we are doing that. I also met with Jackie Natera in a meeting with a few other community members, and we were thinking about getting the youth council involved with more diverse books in the school libraries. We haven't like figured out or went any further than that, but that's where we're at.
Awesome. Thanks, Yana. Juneteenth flag raising recap. I don't know who wants to give the recap. Nicole, you want to give a recap?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was well attended despite the rain. I went to Lynn's today. That's why I was late. And they also had a very beautiful service there. I just was very grateful, and I just really enjoyed it. I hated that I missed the week before to see the pride flag go up, but it was nice. It was very nice. We had the ROTC from Lynn High School came and put the flag on the flagpole. We had a singer and someone do a statement, and then myself and Teray, who's from the finance committee, also we read something for the group. So it was good. Thank you.
I thought it was so great. I was like very moved, very like, I just thought it was like the total package. Like I learned stuff. I felt emotionally moved and connected. It was beautiful. There was people. It was great.
I just wanted to ask one more thing. So I happened to look on the North Shore Juneteenth Association's webpage today and didn't realize that you could be a member. And it's, I mean, beyond, I mean, they do a ton of stuff around Juneteenth, but it seems like they do a lot of other events other times in the year. They have a list of Black-owned businesses in the area. It just seems like a phenomenal group to be a part of. So something to consider whether or not. I saw that, I think it was the Hamilton Human Rights Commission is, you can be a member organization, or you can be an individual member. And to be an organizational member, it's $186.50. All of the costs have to do with 1865. So for a yearly individual, it's $18.65. But something to consider if we wanted to be, if we wanted to join.
Maria, can you please again repeat the name of the organization?
Yes, it's the North Shore Juneteenth Association, and Nicole is a member.
Well, I mean, is that something we want to talk about now? Like, I feel like no time like the present. Or is it something, I don't know. What are people's thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't know if people wanted, I mean, Nicole, if you know more details that you wanted to provide us, or if we want to wait a month and have people look it up, I don't know.
That's what I would suggest. I would suggest that people look up what we do. I mean, I've been working with them for a while, but I myself just joined, but I've been doing stuff for a few years now. Just to kind of see what they do, and then everybody can report back if they think it's within the mission that we stand for. The Melrose's flag raising is next week, and so they'll be there as well. So if anybody wanted to check out and see anything else, see how Melrose is doing it or whatever, and they'll be there as well. So yeah, I have a well, maybe this is matters not anticipated. I'll wait to the end.
Okay, yeah, Jeremy, I saw your hand.
Yeah, if I can just chime in, I agree that we should, just given that it's not a small chunk of change to our whole budget, I would, it's a good time to do it, given that it's right after the Juneteenth thing. But I think, like if we can just look at what comes with that as an organization versus, people making it individual. So I think it's fine to put it on our agenda now for next month's meeting, and then everybody can do their due diligence. And maybe those who don't do their due diligence, someone here can, have done it and recap it at that meeting too. So.
This sounds like a great plan. Putting it on the agenda. Let's see, anything else about the Juneteenth ceremony?
Just
I
one
just wanted to say,
question. Is that going to be an individual assignment or an action item for all that we all should look into it?
I think we should all look into it.
Okay.
Amy, sorry, what were you saying?
I just wanted to say I'm sorry that I couldn't be there last night, and I missed the feature where we could chat people during the meeting, and that's gone now, I see.
Yeah, I think they must have disabled that for the public meetings or something, like we can't chat each other.
That's problematic if someone is just sharing a link, because we can not write it out for people to see. So for instance, if someone had given me, a particular Facebook account that we needed to share with everybody, they wouldn't be able to get it until after they got the minutes. They wouldn't be able, whereas if you have the chat, you can put it in there right away.
Yeah, it's not something that I have control over. It's like the settings that the town have done through their Zoom account, I think.
Can we ask them to reinstate it?
I'm pretty sure you won't get it because of the open meeting. I don't think if you're watching on Zoom, you can see the chat unless you're, like a certain member. So I would bet that it's locked down for that reason. But you're welcome to reach out and find out, but I suspect it's gone for a reason.
Let's see, should we move on to the next topic? Is that cool? I'm doing it. The active bystander training, well, first of all, does anybody have any updates? I didn't attend this one that they did most recently, but does anybody have any updates about how it went or anything like that? Lindsay, yes, tell us.
I went to it. It was actually really, really interesting. I thought it was really good, really helpful. So I would definitely encourage anybody to attend who hasn't been. I don't know if there are more planned. Are there more planned or?
Yeah, I will give an update about that in a second, but just, yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. I would definitely encourage anybody to attend. It was people of all ages. I mean, it was really, really helpful, really interesting. So good training.
Was it a full house? Did they get a full enrollment?
I don't think it was full, but there were enough people to do small groups and the breakout groups. I think there were enough for probably about 4 or 5 different breakout groups of 3 people each. So
and what was the date on that again?
I don't have it offhand, just because I'm not at home. I apologize. I have it in my other notebook. It was a couple weeks ago. 2 weeks maybe. I can get back to you on that if you'd like.
The update about the upcoming one is that, so we had voted to bring them back for 2 more sessions. One of them got, like Lindsay was saying, got a bunch of people signed up. The other one, not very many people signed up for, and they won't go forward with like doing the event if there's only a couple of people signed up. So one of them got canceled, but we have the option to reschedule. So it's been on my list, but I haven't reached out to them yet to reach out and pick another date for doing that. The one you went to, Lindsay, was during the week. It was on a weeknight.
Yeah, I believe it was a Thursday it was later, 7 to 9 or something like that, 7:30 to 9. But yeah, I believe it was a Thursday night.
Okay. So I can reach out to them to reschedule. Do people like have any thoughts or recommendations about whether we should try to schedule it again for a weeknight or try to do a weekend? Or the one that got canceled, Maria, do you know what the schedule was for the other one?
I think they were back-to-back nights. I think one was a Wednesday.
Yeah, it was a Wednesday and a Thursday. I think so too. Yeah.
Right. And I know that, yeah, they won't go forward if there's less than 10 people registered. So I know that they had, I think maybe 4 or 5, and they couldn't go forward with that. But yeah, I also think May is just an incredibly busy time of year. So maybe if we did something over the summer, that there would be a higher likelihood of people being able to go.
I was also wondering, is there a way that it can be, I mean, it was explained, I guess, in the event, but is there a way we can better market it or get it out to more people, just so more people can be aware of it, or maybe better explain what being an active bystander is to people who haven't had as much exposure or been through the training? Because I think maybe if more people knew what it pertained to, more people will probably go, because it was applicable to all ages and really, really helpful, or most ages anyway, I would think, or it would be helpful. So even, high school, middle school age.
Actually, I just went through the 3-part training to become a facilitator. So I've been through the course 2 more times, it just in the last week or so. And so I'm very familiar with it. And I could write up, an article easily from the material. I have so much information. And actually, I'm planning on, as soon as I can, to volunteer to be paired off with someone more experienced at this, so that I don't forget all I just learned. Because
it's really good. Yeah,
it is. That's why I raised my hand, because I thought it was such a worthwhile program, and very much in line with the kind of work we do at this body. So I could write up an article now. The thing is, I don't want to start publicizing. The timing is important. Do we really think we are going to get enough participants during the summer months? We're in competition now with things opening up and people being able to go on vacations. Would we get enough participation in summer months to have a session June, July? Well, June is almost over, July or August.
Possibly during a weekday, possibly, I would think. Not a weekend, I wouldn't think, but maybe on a weekday, another Thursday or something.
I'm thinking late fall might be better if we don't do the summer, only because I know I want to attend. I couldn't attend the last one, and I know this summer I wouldn't be able to. So, kids are out of school, and families with their kids, whatever's going on. I think maybe once things slow down, I guess, when school starts.
Yeah, it would be nice too to be able to advertise through the schools. We could put a posting through the like newsletters that they send out and things. I don't know, maybe that happened for this one. I'm not sure.
They also have, they have special trainings that are just for school that are different than the adult trainings. And I know, Lindsay, you went to the Zoom, and Benny went to the Zoom, I went to the Zoom, and I've been trained in doing the Zoom, but they're going to start retraining people who haven't had the live training, because they're going to be able to start doing live trainings too.
I have a question in terms of finances. So how does it work with our budget? Like if we have the event in the fall, that's in the next fiscal year, is it okay? Like, does the money carry over? How does that work?
I think it's just, well, there's the 2 accounts. So with our budget, we've already spent everything in our budget for this year. So if we decided to hold another training, It would come out of next year's line item budget. And if for some reason we wanted to use the money from our revolving account, I think we would just need to check in with Sherry Dalton about that. But yeah, I don't think it would be affected by the fact that we voted on it in the prior fiscal year. I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay. Cool. Well, so I'm also unclear on what things we're supposed to vote on and not vote on. I mean, we already voted to do the second session, but in terms of the scheduling, whether we do it over the summer or in the fall, it sounds like there's more points in favor of doing it in the fall in terms of people being available to do it. Any disagreement? Okay, so when I reach out, I will try to go in that direction in terms of seeing what their availability is starting in the fall. Cool. Any other thoughts about the active bystander stuff? Okay. Let's see, the He Has No Home Here signs. I'm not sure, Maria, did you have an update on this?
Yes, so I have them at my house, and I just wanted to kind of make sure that I understood the process. So first of all, I think my first question is, are we going to sell them at the farmer's market? And if we do want to sell them at the farmer's market, we just need to make sure that we keep them, I can coordinate with whoever is going to be there at the beginning to drop off the box. And then just making sure that we have someplace, either a box or an envelope or something like that, to collect the money, because we're selling them at cost for $5 each. And then agree that once the farmer's market is over, if we want to get the money to Sherry as the treasurer to give to Sherry Dalton at Town Hall, just to make sure that we understand how the money is getting to where it needs to go. So yeah, it was that process. And then after the farmer's market, trying to figure out if we're publicizing that. I'm happy to keep them at my house for now, as either a drop-off point or a pickup point for people to come and get them, or drop them off at people's houses as I'm able, if people send us a message that they want one.
So first, I have a question about what you were saying about the money.
Mhm.
Is this a thing where we have to like bring it to town meeting and like accept the donation?
No, so this would all be going to the revolving account that they opened for us, almost expressly for the proceeds of the Hate Has No Home Here sign. So we wouldn't have to go and say it's a donation because we've already purchased them. And so we're kind of reimbursing. My understanding is that we're basically reimbursing ourselves. So yeah, it's not something that would need to go before town council.
So then what do people think about this next question that Maria brought up about how we want to advertise or sell these signs going forward after? I think we should totally sell them at the farmer's market. I'm into it. But then after the farmer's market, what's our plan for kind of distributing them and getting them out there?
I mean, this should have, it's a little late to put anything even in the item for this week because it's next weekend. I can put something on, post something on Patch to at least say that they will be available from at the WHRC table. The new shipment of signs are available. Would you like me to do that?
Well, it's not too late to post to the item. If you get something to the item before 7 a.m., they'll put it in that day's paper.
Yeah, I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to write it in time.
Oh, I thought you meant they, yeah.
No, I don't know if I'm going to be able to have time enough to write it in time. Like I said, I can do a quick post to Patch. And actually, I thought that this was part of Pride Month, And I sent some, just some basics of promotion to Eileen, just the links. So but I didn't realize that that was not coming under the purview of the card committee.
I mean,
It's just the HRC generally.
Mhm.
Nicole, you were gonna say something a minute ago, I thought.
Mine is for matters not anticipated. At
I
the end.
thought I saw you unmute yourself a second ago.
Oh, no, oh, yeah, so can we put it on Facebook like we always do, and then Maria, can you take a picture with it going like this, and then we can blast it all around? I mean, I don't know how but I feel like the farmer's market put that we would be there with the signs. I felt like I saw that on her thing saying it's starting this week. So
yeah, they definitely mentioned us. I can't remember if they mentioned the signs, but yeah, they definitely mentioned that the HRC is going to be there. So,
Mhm.
and those tend to go pretty fast, at least in previous farmers markets when we were selling them. So, okay.
And if the weather's nice, this is going to be a very busy farmers market because it's the first one.
So it sounds like maybe we should sell them at the farmer's market. Well, okay, put a post on Facebook so that you like to share that we'll be at the farmer's market and people can buy them there. Sherry, if you want to post in the patch, I think that sounds great. And see how it goes and like assess how many we have left and what we want to do going forward, like after, because if we sell like 50 signs, how many do we have?
We have 100.
Yeah.
Yep.
Save one for me. I promised to
Let's
buy one
maybe-
for someone.
Oh, sorry. Jen Betcher had a few left at her house from the previous batch. So we have probably 105, I would say.
So you're saying, besides that, so on the day of, we need someone to go to your house to pick them up. Someone has to be responsible for the money at the end. That was what you're originally saying. And it has to be delivered to Sherry Dalton on Saturday or Monday or?
No, I'm the treasurer, so the money can
Okay.
be, and I live around the corner from the lake. So,
Okay.
I'm working 11 to 12. I wasn't actually going to be home from 12 to 1, but I'll make sure I'm around so that I can receive the money. I'll walk back over to the lake and get the money at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be immediately afterwards. If at some point after the farmer's market, if whoever is closing up at the farmer's market can get the money to you, whether it's that day, it doesn't need to be immediately after, just to deliver it to you. And if you're okay delivering it to Sherry Dalton.
I'm fine yeah, I will bring it. In fact, I've not met her in person yet. I look forward to it.
Okay.
Okay, so whoever is the 12 to 1 people at the table, hold on to the money and then we'll arrange for a meeting so I can take it from you and bring it to the town hall.
Benny, I can pick up the signs if you want, because I think we're first. Am I first with you? I'm at 9 a.m.
Yeah, you and me.
Or if you wanted to, whatever.
If you want to, that might be good. Either way, really. In fact, maybe we can transition into the next topic, which is tabling at the farmer's market, which is, so we start at 9, but I think we're supposed to be there at like, I don't even know, sometime before. We're supposed to be fully set up by 8:45. So however long it takes to pop a tent and set up a table, like we should get there at like 8:30 or whatever. I, as it turns out, have a doctor's appointment in Dedham at 8 o'clock. So my guess is that I won't be back until like about 9. And so I'm wondering what might be the best thing to do, because now that will leave you sort of in the lurch, Nicole, alone without me trying to set this thing up.
I'm happy to go and help set up and bring the signs down.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The other things, so there's a couple other things we have to sort of figure out. One is there actually is nobody signed up for the noon to 1 time slot. So we're covered from 9 to 10, from 10 to 11, and from 11 to 12, but we need 2 people from 12 to 1. Is there anybody who would be willing to help us out?
That's this Saturday, not next Saturday, right?
Saturday, yeah.
I can do this Saturday.
Oh, that's so great. Let's see. Anybody else able to come to the farmer's market at 12? What do you think we should do about this? Well, so first of all, there's a couple people who aren't here, so I could like reach out to Eileen, and Daniela's already signed up, but I could reach out to Eileen and Teresa.
Stephen?
Stephen, yep. Because we're like obligated, I had to like sign a contract with the farmer's market that said we would staff the table for the full amount of time. So I can reach out to them, but if they're not able to do it, you know, busy Saturday that's coming up only 3 days from now.
I just have to check one thing. I might end up being able to do it, so.
Okay. So I might be in touch with you all, giving you some pleads or prods of some kind.
What else will be on the table? What else do we have? I know we seem to have some sort of tablecloth. Do we have any kind of written material? What else will be displayed?
There is the tablecloth. I don't know where it is.
It was used at the Pride flag raising.
Maybe Eileen has it.
I would say Eileen or Daniela have it, because I had given it to them the day of the Pride flag racing. And then in terms of written materials, I collected a bunch of, I collected whatever boxes that Jen Betcher had in her basement. And I have those, and there's a bunch of pamphlets, there's some stickers that I can bring down with the signs and have those out. We also have, I think there should be extra Pride buttons that were available at the flag raising. I don't know that they gave them all away, and maybe some flags that we could have. Those always go pretty quickly.
We also have, I don't know, I mean, I would not be opposed to printing them out like at work or something, but we got a bunch of written materials about Juneteenth that the other Nicole sent to us. I'd be interested, we could print those out and have them available.
I think that would be great since it's the actual Juneteenth.
Yeah. And Lindsay, do you want to do the like goodie bag thing that you and I talked about?
I was actually wondering if like that came under matters not anticipated or not, because I have a bunch of different resources related to mental health that I didn't know if that would be appropriate for this, or if we wanted to table that so we can talk about more what specifically that would entail if we were to put it on a table, or what people would want to display or have. But I do have a lot of written resources and material that can be available for people. I don't know how much we would need in terms of quantity though as well. Maybe we could talk about that once you have a better idea of what I have in my possession that I could bring, because I could always bring it down. I do work Saturdays, so I couldn't work at the table, but ahead of 9, I could bring whatever was needed. If you wanted to do that. A lot of it's around like suicide prevention hotlines, depression, resource information, things like that. Disaster awareness. So I don't know what people's thoughts are, or if that would be something that you think would be appropriate.
I think we have to be very careful of what we put on the table
Yeah.
to make sure that it is consistent with our mission. And
Yeah.
none of us have seen any of this material.
That's why I wanted to see if people wanted to wait and see kind of what I had before.
Yeah, I was
moving forward
thinking,
with that.
I do think that access to mental health resources to me falls under the mission, but maybe it would be good if you, I don't know, what's the best way? Is there a way for you to get the material so that we can see them between now and
Yes.
then?
Yes, I believe not all, but most of what I have available is in PDF form. Not all though. A lot of it is. So I can certainly forward what I have to all of you. If am I able to do that via email? Is that something that I can do in terms of
Yeah.
information, or
Yeah,
it's public information anyway?
Yeah, distributing packets of like materials for the meeting is something
Yeah.
you're going to do.
Okay, awesome. I'll do that.
Yeah, so then if you send them out, and I can also include them in the like email that I send before the next meeting of like, here's the materials to review. And that way we can talk about that.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like for this Saturday, we've got the signs, we've got the Juneteenth materials that I can print out. I should make a note to do that. We've got the rest of the Pride swag that's left from the other day. Is there any other things that we should try to have? Like normally we would have a list of upcoming events or something, but we don't really have upcoming events. So
Do we still have pins from the old past years of the MLK and Coretta Scott King events? Do we still have those pins that the kids made, you know, with the artwork? Yeah,
Might.
that would be nice to
Let me
have.
go through, I went through most of the boxes from Jen, but let me check. If we do, I'll definitely bring them. And then in terms of the table and the tent, Jeremy, you said you had a tent that we could use?
Yeah, I can bring one in the morning. I have a 12 by 12, like green pop-up.
yeah,
So
that would be great.
if that's okay. I don't know if they have a size restriction, but yeah.
It didn't mention a size, I don't think, on the thing.
Yeah, I can come at, I don't know what time you guys want me to show up with it, but I can bring it. Early in the morning is not an issue. It's just around noon that's
Yeah.
up in the air at the moment. We have a baseball playoff game, so I'm trying to figure out the final time. So
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I have a table. Oh, I was planning to bring, I have a, what do you call it? Like a folding table that I was going to bring, but now I have this problem where I'm not going to be there until right at 9.
I have a folding table. It's not that big. I mean, it's one of those, I don't know the dimensions, but it's probably okay for 2 people to sit at and for us to have our material there.
Yeah.
I could bring that.
Are you okay to bring it? I feel, oh no, yeah, you're first on the first shift with me. Okay, yeah, that's great. I apologize for now having this like wrinkle where I'm going to be probably not late, but definitely not early.
Yeah, and unless it's going to rain, you may not need the pop-up, because the whole thing with the pop-up is after the farmer's market, someone's gonna have to take it home, dismantle it and take it home with them, because Jeremy won't be able to come over immediately.
Yeah, that's true.
So unless it's, right now, I don't know what the weather forecast is, it keeps changing.
I
But
think
if
we're
it's-
like expected to have a tent.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so then my next question, yeah, who would be collecting? And yeah,
Mm,
because I would need the table back for the following weekend. I'm fine with going to someone's house if it just goes to someone's house, because I don't think I would be available to come by and pick it up.
I think I would actually, I think I could come by and pick everything up at the end. If people want to do that, I can get the table and the tent and then figure out between you and Jeremy and the box of stuff and all the things, and figure out between us, like to come bring it to you or do whatever we're gonna do. So I can swing by at the end and pick up the stuff.
And Benny, if you're gonna be at the very end, perhaps you should take the money,
Sure.
and then I'll get the money from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Hmm.
All right. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns, ideas for the tabling at the farmer's market? Great. Okay. Speaking of upcoming events, Steve Mayo emailed and said that it hasn't actually been approved yet, but it is very likely that there will be a festival by the lake in October. And so he sent me along the like application to have a table at the festival by the lake. I asked him, I was like, should we fill this out if it hasn't been approved yet? And he's like, it's definitely going to be approved. Almost definitely. Anyway, but I guess my question to you all is, would we like to table at the festival by the lake? It's on October 2nd.
I think so.
Yeah, I will be in the midst of the beginning of Indigenous people commemorations. And that might be a good place to promote that.
I love that idea, and I think that we should check in with Indigenous legislative agenda folks, because I know that at least last year they were asking towns that wouldn't get like super gung-ho excited buy-in to hold off on Indigenous Peoples' Day. They're hoping to move more in towns where it's going to move easily first. So yes, if.
So even if it was not about like Indigenous Peoples' Day as a holiday, if it was just about.
I mean, I think that my biggest thing is that I would like it's not my community or identity, and I would want to check in and ask for someone else's leadership, especially because that's been a challenging thing in this town this year.
But I think either way, you're gonna want a table, whether the HRC, like, you know, it's a town thing. If the HRC is not there with all the momentum we're trying to build and that we've created, you know,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna want a table. So, and with that much planning, we ought to be able to have a good table. So,
Yeah. Great. Okay, wait. Another question. Is this the thing we vote on? What do we vote on? I should have asked Tom on.
I think so. I think we do have to vote on that.
Okay.
I think.
Oops, you muted yourself, Nicole.
Okay, I make a
Do we-
motion that the WHRC should have a table on October 2nd during Festival by the Lake.
Nicole, you were in the middle of a sentence. Sorry, what was your?
Oops, sorry.
I was wondering if we had to vote about how we were going to get the money to share you, or we don't have to do that. Like, that's so.
I don't think so. I'm not quite sure why. It just doesn't feel, I mean, that seems like more of a logistics thing. Like we're
Okay.
not voting how to spend the money. We're just voting how to get the money from point A to point B. So yeah,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Awesome. So do we have then a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, here I go again with my roll call. People's order has changed, so the order this time will be different, starting with Sherry,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Jeremy,
yes.
and myself, I am also a yes. Awesome. Festival by the Lake, check. Physical storage space. I don't actually have any updates. Do you have any updates, Maria?
I emailed Steve Mayo about it, and he wanted to know how much stuff we were talking about storing. And I have to get back to him to determine that. And he said he would do his best to find some space for us. One consideration is, as we're talking about things like Festival by the Lake and the farmers market, is if we do store stuff at a town building, we are subject obviously to the schedule that building is open. So it's something to think about, just making sure we have some advanced planning to get whatever we need for whatever event we're talking about.
This is, sorry, I should have prefaced that with some context for anyone who's new, is that as you just witnessed, it's like some of the stuff is at so-and-so's house. So-and-so has like a little bit of the other extra stuff. Who has the buttons? I can't remember. So we've talked for years about having like some kind of closet or locker or something that we can put all our stuff in. And we've never accomplished it, but we're still trying. Okay, so we'll stay updated about that, Maria. Let us know. Networking with other HRCs. This was on the agenda from before, and I just put it on there even though no one asked me to, because I wasn't sure if this is a thing that should be on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm glad you did because it holds me accountable. Now that I have like transitioned all of my chair duties, I can focus on this. So leave it on the agenda for next month. I am respectfully asking, and Jeremy and I will have a report. Whether or not we've held a meeting, we will absolutely at the very least have one scheduled, depending on what the availabilities of the other HRCs are. So that's my update. Sorry.
I'll say, you don't have to say you're sorry. We're all humans. I'll say this is actually, I put this under my chair's comment thing, but I'm actually going to put it here because this seems quite related, which is I got an email in the HRC email address that there is a forum of social justice and human rights groups in our district that is planned for Monday, June 28th at 11 o'clock in the Stoneham Senior Center. So it's going to be like HRCs from around. I'm not really, it didn't like list anybody, but I'm assuming it's Stoneham and like other people.
Is it with Jason Lewis's office? Is that who sent the email out?
No, I don't think so. Let me open it. Or
And that was Stoneham Community Center on June 28th.
the Stoneham Senior Center, June 28th at 11 a.m.
Okay.
This is from, oh, maybe it is. It comes from a Mass Senate email address.
Is it Emily Granoff?
Yep. Senator Jason Lewis. Okay, cool. So this is separate from what you guys were working on.
Yes. Yeah, so he does, he's done this in the past where he has kind of a convening of area HRCs or similarly minded groups to kind of hear what they're working on, what he's working on. It's just a conversation about kind of current priorities. So I haven't gone to it in the past, but other members of the HRC have, and they've been really impressed.
Is there anyone who, oh, this is a Monday, June 28th at 11 a.m. Is there anyone who would be interested in going to this thing? It's not like a required thing for us to attend, but it sounds like it could be cool if anyone's around to do it. Yeah, I work during those hours, as does everyone else who is nodding their heads. I will check in just to see with the folks who are not here and see if anybody is interested in attending, but it's possible that we won't be able to swing it this time. It's in person, it's not by Zoom or anything, so that might also make it less convenient. Okay, going back to the order of the agenda, the next thing on there was, okay, the next thing on there was my comments anyway. The student appointment, I just want to give a quick update. So I emailed Doug Lyons and Amy McLeod, who are the people who appoint the student member from the high school, and they have a person. I actually don't totally understand what the process is still, as is true of like basically everything. Because they have a person picked out, and I don't know, Maria, do you know, does that person then still need to be appointed by the town council?
I don't think so. No, I think the appointment is solely by the superintendent and principal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think that needs to be approved or appointed by the town council.
But she would still need to be sworn in and all those things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna reach out to her to welcome her. It's Emanuela Partyka. Apologies to the whole world since that was just recorded and I don't know how to say your last name.
And if we had chat, you could have typed it in.
Yep. See, we're losing out without that chat. So I just got this email that said she's a junior. She applied for the spot last year, but since she was a sophomore last year and Faith was a senior, they went with Faith. And so she's a junior which they don't say this here, but I think there's the possibility that if she were interested, she could stay with us for 2 years, which would be like such a benefit to the HRC, I think, to have that continuity and that longevity. So it's exciting. I mean, she's like a current junior. Oh no, that's not right. So she'll be a senior next year. Oh well, never mind. I thought it was saying that she was a rising junior, but she's not. So that's exciting. Emanuela, I think she goes by Emma, perhaps. It says Emma later in this email. So I'm going to email her, and hopefully if she can get, you know, like signed in and all the sworn in and all those things, she can be with us for our next meeting. So let's see, moving on. Nicole, what was your matter that was not anticipated?
Well, I have a suggestion that I have been thinking about, is maybe a few times a year having just different groups come and talk about what, what they are, what they stand for. Like, for example, like Metco. I think some of us have an idea of what it is. Some of us don't really understand. Instead of hearing things secondhand, it would be good to have Flavia maybe come and do a short 5-minute presentation. I feel like that might bring other people to the group to see that we're going to be talking about or listening to someone do a presentation. I think a lot of people know a lot about LGBTQIA issues, but a lot of us don't. Like I say, like I don't, and it would be good to hear, hear someone do like a short informational thing for the group. So we're just continuing with the knowledge us as a committee. So that's just like my idea, what I've been kind of thinking about to help enhance, I guess.
What are people's thoughts, reactions, ideas?
I think it's a wonderful
I think it's a great idea.
as long as they can be short, not really long, because these meetings can run on.
I think it's a great idea as well.
I really love this. This is actually like strongly related to, I'm on the DEI committee at the high school that I attended, and they've been doing something similar all year. And I love the idea of continuing our own learning, and because our meetings are open, then making it learning that anyone in the community could participate in too.
Do we have any other? So Nicole, you mentioned Metco and like LGBTQIA, someone from like an organization or something like that. Are there
or anyone from the group that feels like they're well versed and they some new information that they want to present? I mean, in like anything, like we had Nicole McLean, she talks a little bit about, did she talk about Juneteenth a little bit? I thought that was helpful. It would be good to have someone when Indigenous People Day does come up, even though whatever we decide for October, but it would be nice to have them make a little 5-minute thing so we're actually remembering them on that, whatever, increasing our knowledge, I'll just say. I just think that, and then same thing with the AAPI, it would be, good to have some sort of knowledge. So.
Yeah, Lindsay, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say that could also be a good opportunity to increase knowledge around mental health awareness, resources, and different supports that could be available to the community in different ways as well, or places that people could access those resources if they're in written format. So thank you for that idea. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, that actually also makes me think about, we have Yana as our liaison from the youth council, and we don't have right now, but at some point I'm assuming we're going to get another liaison to the town council, but we don't have any interactions with any of the other committees or councils. And I was thinking about this when we were talking the other day, Lindsay, about like, it would be cool to connect with like the Council on Disability Issues. And like, there's some councils that I think are not important for us to connect with, like the Bench Viewing Council, but I think that there would be some that would be no disrespect intended to the bench committee, but like ones that are like aligned in some way with us. I think it could be cool to invite like a member or whoever from those to our meetings periodically and just like build more connections.
So with this, I think we have to vote on this, right, if we're gonna move forward, but aside from that, can we make a Google Doc and everyone can be a part of it and add, or we have to just do that all in the meeting, like of different people, and then, or we have to have a subcommittee for it if we decide, if the group decides that we want to move forward on this? How does that?
Yeah, what are the best logistics? I will say the Google Doc, I think, is a violation of the open meeting laws. We can't be like collectively editing. You can have a static document that you share, but not like a one that you're editing. But yeah, so I mean, what we could try to do is pick a thing for like maybe 2 meetings away or 1 meeting away, and then a volunteer is like the point person for contacting someone to come and join us, something like that.
You could almost have I mean, you know, Maria and I are listed networking with other HRCs, but you can almost have an HRC, a Wakefield HRC networking subcommittee, which this would come under, I would think, because you're really networking with other organizations. So it might be best to have a subcommittee that, you know, shapes out kind of what might look good for us as a body to use as a model going forward, instead of just taking a vote on do we do it or not. I mean, I would think we would want a few people to kind of scheme out what it might look like and get ideas of who might be the first type of invitees. I don't know, that's just my thought. And maybe it doesn't lie strictly under the networking with other HRCs as well, or maybe it's a separate thing, but it all sounds like networking, right? Like networking and educating ourselves on you know, other groups out there, other players we can be involved with. So.
And this also builds upon what we've been trying to put together in terms of communications, because we were looking for resources outside of just promotions, but also resources for groups that we could collaborate with. So this would help build upon that whole goal as well. Jeremy, I thought that was a wonderful idea to have some structure behind it, so we're not just trying to reinvent it each and every time.
Yeah, and it could have like a schedule planned out of like, you know, in the August meeting, we'll try to invite someone on this topic on the May, you know. So Jeremy, are you saying that your networking subcommittee wants to do this? Is that what you were saying? Or are you saying a separate but similar subcommittee?
No, I would say like Maria and I kind of, we're not really a subcommittee. You know, we were just pointed to reach out to the other, well, I guess you have this listed as, yeah, like we're not a subcommittee. We're just the topic on the agenda, right? Networking with other HRCs. So the question I'm putting out there is, do we form a networking subcommittee, and then is the HRC, you know, the other HRCs part of that umbrella, or is it separate from, you know, what Maria and I already started? I'm not volunteering to chair the networking subcommittee, if that's what you're asking. I'm just suggesting that it might be easier logistically to have a subcommittee to kind of shape what that might look like. So.
Let's see. So I think that sounds good. I feel like there was some nodding. There was some enthusiasm for having a subcommittee to help be planning that. Are there people who are interested in doing that? Cool.
I am. Did you see? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
does it make sense to fold it in with this networking outside of the town thing, or are those two different topics? Like would it be weird to be trying to deal with both of those in one meeting?
I'm just trying to, sorry, kind of thinking out loud. I mean, not knowing what the meeting with the HRCs, like, I don't really know what's going to come of that, if that's going to become like a regular meeting, or if that's just we have one meeting and we agree, okay, we're just going to keep each other updated on things that are happening. So without knowing that, that's why I'm a little not quite sure which direction to go in.
Yeah, maybe we keep them separate. We already have sort of the groundwork, some emails out to the HRC point people in the area. So, this one's like Nicole said, it's more of, our direct contacts in the town, things that are related to us, at least to begin with, it sounds like. So maybe we keep them separate just so that, it's a little bit easier to move forward with one or both.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, they actually feel pretty separate to me. It feels like the networking with other HRCs is an opportunity for sharing resources and programmatic ideas. And Nicole's suggestion is for our own internal work and learning that could be shared more broadly with the town, right? Like the more we work on like the gaps that we hold personally and places that we need to continue to learn and grow, the more prepared we are to serve our HRC. And I think certainly some of that can come from networking, but I think that most of it, there are a couple of things that some of us are experts on, but I think for the most part, this is looking for like someone who is like a lived expert in something to come in and give us some education.
So who else would be interested in working with Nicole on that? If we want to do it, someone's got to do it. Yeah, Lindsay, I see you reaching.
I'm happy to help with it, but in terms of, I don't know what sort of time commitment a subcommittee would entail. It's the reason I was sort of hesitant, because I think it's a really exciting idea and I want to be a part of it. I just don't want to commit to something I wouldn't be able to give my full attention to that it deserves, I guess, is my
It's not going to
hesitation.
require a lot of commitment, a lot of time, because I don't have that much time. So
Okay,
we'll
perfect. And I'm happy to help
try-
support you with that. It's a great
we'll try
idea.
to work within it.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, perfect.
And I'm happy to do it too. I have a couple ideas too, like on the immigration front.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna volunteer anybody, but without her being here, but Teresa sounds like she would be jumping right now for this one as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you tell her this and she says, "Oh yeah, definitely." So, but that's just, I don't want to speak for her, but you guys know how she is. She probably would be willing to help out too.
Cool. Well then, do you want the three of you to do the thing? Post a meeting, have a meeting, maybe double check with Teresa and see if she wants to join you.
Sounds good.
That's great. I love this idea. Thank you, Nicole, for bringing that up, because I think this is going to really add a lot. I feel like there's a lot of enthusiasm. Okay. Any other matters not anticipated?
I have one. So over the course of, it kind of started back in March, Pina Masciarelli wanted to do a grant to the Human Rights Commission for a partnership with the Black Student Union. And that finally just came through. And it's a $250 grant that the money is being held by the Wakefield Public Schools. Brian Robertson, the director of guidance, is the contact person for any questions. So she sent an email to me and to Glavia Smith last week, and it was just because she had been communicating with the two of us throughout this process of trying to get it moved forward. But I will forward that email to you, Benny, just so you to the WHRC email, just so you have that. So yeah, Glavia is aware of this, and so yeah, and the grant is the in quotes, it is for Black Student Union Wakefield Human Rights Commission to provide educational and social justice programming. So that's kind of the only, that's the overarching condition, but there aren't any kind of specific types of programming or something like that. So something to keep in mind for future programming ideas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She just like did that.
Yep.
Huh, that's cool.
Out of the blue.
Do you know if well, what is, so I know that they're having a picnic on Thursday to celebrate Juneteenth. Would they be able to use some money if they wanted to get, like, you know, you're supposed to eat something red to represent the blood that was shed? Would they be able to buy a cake to share, or do you, I mean, I know it's too close in time to get that information, but I just wanted to stop that.
Yeah, I can, I think we'd probably need to ask Pina and Glavia, and also the guidance director, in terms of how to access that, if that's something that we could buy with the money, and if so, if we have time to do that.
Yeah.
So if we were to do that, it seems like we would have to vote right now, like have some kind of proposal to vote on.
Oh, well, then don't worry about it. I mean, they'll have plenty of other things. I just was wondering.
But it seems like the type of thing that it would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's too bad the timing is like that. Also, but just to make sure this is on people's radar, so the picnic that Nicole is referencing is on Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30 at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere. I'm not sure where by the lake.
Right at the gazebo.
Okay, yeah. They're having a picnic open to all for Juneteenth. Should be great. Hosted by the BSU. Okay, that's cool though. Yeah, Maria, send me the info. And maybe we can start cooking up some ideas for hearing about the ideas that the BSU has. All right, any other matters not anticipated? Great. Sherry, can you walk us through the action list?
Oh, I will try. Try typing all of that in red so I can find it quickly. Let's see. Okay, so the first hour was Tom Mullen's presentation, so there's no action items there. And scrolling down through the pages, okay. I will ask Eileen for sources of information on the Saturday, June 26th North Shore Pride event. Sherry will prepare the promotional resources for everyone by the next meeting, and Maria will work with Jen Betcher to on the history and send that to Sherry so we can move ahead on posting that. This is for all of us. We should look into what the North Shore Juneteenth Association does so that we can determine if we should join that, become an organizational member at $186.50. Let's see, Benny is going to check availability of an active bystander training for the fall. Boy, my name is on here a lot. I'm going to post availability of our Hate Has No Home Here signs on Patch. Maria is going to bring those signs, Juneteenth material, pride swag, and other display materials, and help Nicole, who will bring a folding table, set up at the farmer's market by 8:45 a.m. Jeremy is going to bring the pop-up. Benny is going to locate our tablecloth and also break down our table at the end of the event. And Lindsay is going to share some material that we need to determine if it's appropriate for display. And I'm not sure about that, if that's a deliberation. Because we're all going to be looking at something and are we going to be talking about it or just saying yes or
That's
no?
for the next meeting. I think we'll talk about it.
Ah, okay. Okay, so it's not going to be at the farmer's market.
Is that right? Is that what we said? Yeah.
That we're gonna, yeah, because it might be for future
Yeah.
display. Okay, we're gonna change that to future display. Okay, and it's gonna be discussion. Maria is going to ascertain how much physical space we need and coordinate with Steve Mayo to arrange that. And Maria and Jeremy are gonna have a report for our next meeting on networking with other HRCs. Benny's gonna send me Emanuela's name so I can include it in the minutes. And let's see what else we got here. That is not anticipated. Lindsay, Maria, and Nicole are members of our new networking subcommittee and are going to schedule a meeting. And did I leave anything out? I have one question. I know that in the past, not since I've been a commissioner, there was the choice of not having a meeting either in July or August. I think that that is something we have to determine if we're going to meet July and August or forego one of those months.
Do people have thoughts about that? Our normal meeting in July would be the 20th.
Oh, I just realized I had another action item that was further down on the page. I'm sorry. Maria is going to share her email notification about the grant that I believe you got it from Pina and Glavia. That's two names I recorded. And Benny was going to check if we can use any of the money from this grant towards an activity at the Juneteenth picnic that's coming right up.
I wasn't going to do that because I think that if we want to expend the money from that grant, we would have to vote on that now.
Okay.
Like that wasn't happening.
Okay, so then I'm going to take that off the action item list. And I'll just note in the minutes that this is an event open to all of us. Okay, so again, the question, should we be meeting both in July and August? Considering that we do have fall programs, but we don't have anything planned right now.
Do we have any events still happening from now until like September, anything?
We have the remainder of the Pride stuff that's going to be happening. And that's the only planned stuff, I think. And then we have like ongoing, like the subcommittee work for communications, for the stuff that Nicole, that you just brought up, the things like that.
And I'm sorry, the Pride Week ends at the end of June. See, like the education, I mean, I would like to hear an update about what the events or the activities. So as much as I would like a break, I would like to hear about that. And so how would we, if we don't meet July, how would we, if anyone else wants it, I don't know.
I'm just playing devil's advocate because I don't know how we can plan our fall events unless we do meet. Because we don't have anything set up right now for September, October, and so on.
My vote would be to meet and just make sure we have a quorum. I mean, we only need 6 out of the 11 people. So
Okay.
I think, 2 meetings over the summer isn't crazy.
Yeah, I tend to think it's perfectly reasonable to meet for something that isn't like a school function over the summer. The town keeps going. I will say I don't know about my availability to be present in July, but that's only because my mother is having surgery the day before our meeting. And so I already have a commitment to be a good daughter. But other than that, I would certainly plan to be here.
And if they allow us to continue to have the meetings both by Zoom as well as live, even if any of us are out of town, we could at least Zoom in and, you know, we might not be able to vote, but we could be participants in the meeting.
Okay, so we will meet. July 20th is the next scheduled meeting.
And related to that, oh, sorry, Benny.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say related to that, I don't know if we have an answer yet, but now that the legislation has changed, or the state of emergency is over, are we meeting in person the next time? And if we are, I had a couple months back, I had emailed Sherry Dalton to check on one of the town hall conference rooms availability, to see if we could book it for the rest of the calendar year. And I think that was secured. But if you want to, either I can check that, or if you want to check that, Benny, yeah, just in terms of in what sphere will our next meeting take place in?
Yeah, do people have a preference between remote or in person? If so, say we're allowed to still be meeting remotely, which I think we probably will.
For the summer, definitely remote, because like you said, if people are out of town, or like Sherry said, if we're out of town, we could always just pop in if we were free.
But if we can have both, where the people who are available can meet in person, and those who are not, I do believe the town is going to have that availability, the technology available for meetings in town hall. And I know we can meet in town hall because when I was in there the other day, the greeters said to me, "Oh yeah, everyone is meeting live."
Yeah, I think when they talked about it at town council last night, it was that there needed to be a quorum in person, but then other members that couldn't be there in person could still participate remotely. I think that was the legislation that went through, or that is working its way through the State House, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
That's what Tom said.
Yeah.
Just now when he was talking to us.
So whose action item is it going to be to follow up on this?
I mean, I'm happy to follow up. I guess it's unclear to me if I should be. Like, if people would prefer to meet remotely, then I'm not going to follow up about it. If people would prefer to meet in person, then I'll find out about the availability of that room or whatever.
But it sounds like we might have to meet at least 6 of us in a room. The rest can be remote. I think that's what Maria was saying, right? Like we have to have a quorum present physically in one room, but we still can have the rest of the people dial in. So it's a hybrid model. It's not like all on Zoom, which I believe is, I mean, I have to go back and watch the town council meeting. So I don't know about it, but right, Maria, that's what you're getting at. So.
Right. But yeah, it sounds, when they talked about it last night, the House had passed it, but the Senate hadn't. So there may have been amendments. So it's like, I mean, literally from over the course of 24 hours, it could have changed. So I think Sherry Dalton and Steve Mayo and Tom Mullen would be the people that can answer it, certainly once the legislation has been enacted, to figure out in what context we can meet. And in what context are we required to meet, I guess. Yeah.
Lindsay, were you gonna say something? Okay. All right, so then I can put that on my list to, once the legislation actually goes through, to reach out to them to find out what the plan is, like what we're expected to do for next month. And then I'll make sure to keep you all posted. All right. Without further ado, what do people think about ending this meeting? Yes, support? Would someone
Yes.
like to make a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second. Yeah.
All right, enthusiastically. Now roll call. Sherry,
Oh, definitely. Long day.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Lindsay. And it's a yes from me. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.